Croydon, Terminal Airport for London. Time 6:30 a.m. The Meteorological Bureau is astir early. Experts gauge the direction and velocity of the wind at various altitudes by observing the movements of the balloon through a theodolite. The Bureau is in constant touch with local and foreign meteorological centers and can advise aircraft by radio at all times of conditions prevailing along their routes. These are indicated by means of a key table on a weatherboard in the main hall. A small plate changed every hour indicates the exact state of the weather at the last report. Handley Page 42-seater, operating on the Southwest Continental route. Fokker 12, London to Rotterdam, with connections to cities in Northern and Eastern Europe. Early morning inspection. While the cleaners are at work, a searching examination is carried out by an expert staff of inspectors and engineers. The mobile tanker, filling up in readiness for the day's work, exemplifies the latest advance in refueling. By delivering fuel to aircraft on any part of the ground, a considerable saving in time is effected. Certified for 24 hours service, the Handley Page is towed to the embarkation point to take aboard her complement of freight and passengers. Tiny auxiliary motor starts each main engine in turn. Cargo, consigned to Cairo, Baghdad, Singapore, Surabaya, and Brisbane. Letters, postcards, newspapers for Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. Code permit to Imperial Airways liner to leave customs area. KLM liner from Holland is working to a timetable which permits only a short stay at Croydon. While passengers and cargo are being discharged and a fresh load taken aboard, a mobile tanker refuels her where she stands.
How's a good way forward, tanker?
Yeah.
Okay.
$210 gallons in 3 minutes, and the Dutchman starts on time. Lufthansa Junkers. Swissair Douglas. From the time an outgoing liner leaves the ground, radio communication is established with Croydon. Periodically, a liner is completely dismantled, her wings and engines taken away for minute inspection and renewal of any worn or doubtful components. After removing such accessories as magnetos, carburetors, etc., the cylinders are carefully lifted, followed by the pistons. The removal of the front half of the crankcase leaves bare the crankshaft, which is extracted complete with piston rods, these being detached later. Every component, as it is taken down, goes through a cleaning process to remove every particle of dirt and old oil. This precaution lays bare any flaw or weakness to the keen eye of the inspector. When the cylinder has been thoroughly cleaned and examined, the next process is to grind in the valves. Possibly new valves or valve seats have been recommended, but it must be remembered that these engines have flown 50,000 miles or more since last they were opened up for examination. This is a slow process calling for meticulous care. At the end of the renovation process, the cylinder must be as new. but as a further precaution, it returns to the hands of the inspector. The crankshaft, stripped of its piston rods, goes through the same cleaning off process, for the slightest crack or flaw here would wreck the whole engine in a moment. Every angle of the intricate crankcase goes through the same process. No flaws being apparent and bearings in good condition, the component parts of the crankshaft are reassembled. As it is through this shaft the engine transmits its 550 horsepower direct to the propeller, revolving at 2,000 revolutions per minute, the greatest possible care is exercised over its final examination. Each of the component parts having been passed or replaced, they are gathered together, and the process of re-erecting the whole engine is proceeded with, and the order of dismantling reversed. Back in the hangars, the riggers put the final touches to the recommissioned machine. The engines are back in position, the propellers go home, final inspection on the wings is completed, and another day's work is done.
On a December morning in 1903, the Wright brothers took off at Kitty Hawk. They remained in the air for 12 seconds at a maximum height of 9 feet. The result is this. This world of air travel, now at everybody's doorstep, has been created in 50 years or less. A world of flashing propellers, shimmering jet streams, gleaming shapes. A world so exciting that it's sometimes hard to get it in focus.
This is 05 Alpha south of the tower. We're landing at the pad. Delta 5 Alpha, this is Refueling Tower. Check the conveyor, taxiway 5. You cleared to land at the pad, over.
From airports round the globe, passengers are now leaving on regular scheduled flights at a rate of more than 70 millions a year. Some are already old hands in the air. But for many, there's still the thrill of novelty. The bustle of preparations all around. And behind the scenes, too, there are operations. Who's traveling today? Passenger Margaret Fleming, for one, of Kilmarnock, Scotland, bound for Aklavik, northern Canada via Montreal. Excess baggage? It's those last-minute presents for the kids. Passenger Kofi Agene, of West Africa, for another, going from Accra up country to Tamale on urgent business. And here in Bombay, Sita Desai, with an overnight flight ahead and young Mira in her arm. Won't be long now, they're loading the baggage. Each passenger gets a free allowance of baggage. On a long-distance flight, it adds up to about 2 tons in the hold. Then there's the mail, mountains of it. These days, the air carries the equivalent of 15 million letters around the world every week.
Attention please, flight 906. To Lufthansa General Lines, flight 131 call.
Monsieur Lénard, passager à destination de Buenos Aires, et priez de bien vouloir se faire...
And again, who travels? Juan Perez, Caracas, Venezuela, with some routine things to see to in Maturin, briefcase bulging, and a lot to do en route. Minoru Yamata, aged 18, from Tokyo to California, USA, his first venture into the big world alone. And from Burlington, Vermont, Dorothy Gerstein and Irene Cooper, school teachers, with 3 weeks to see the Middle East and bring it home. Who travels? Everybody. It used to be for the first-class few. But now, with tourist fares, the air's for all. For the world, his wife and child. And sometimes even his goose. Goodbye, good trip, and happy landings.
This is the captain speaking to you from the flight deck. We're about to take off now. Fasten your lap straps, please. And no smoking till we're airborne. Thank you.
And the aircraft herself, what of her? She'll probably be a Douglas, a Boeing, or a Lockheed Constellation, a Convair or a Vickers Viscount. She'll weigh as much as 60 tons and carry a crew of up to 10. She'll travel at 300 miles an hour or more and fly at any height from 5 to 30,000 feet.
Go Foxtrot November, clear to Amsterdam. Cross Epsom 2000, 7 Oaks 3000. Climb under radar and obtain 15,000 feet.
Runway 17, the wind south-southwest 5.
Hotel Foxtrot, your traffic is Stinson now on final and DC-3 living pattern outbound heading for 180 degrees. Over.
Clipper 100, you're cleared to taxi to runway 25 left. By taxiway Charlie and runway 13 left. You're cleared to taxi to runway 25 left. By taxiway Charlie and runway 13 left. The wind is southwest at 12.
they taxi out from the aprons to the runways. Slowly turn and stop for the final check.
Before takeoff check, please.
Auto feathering.
Arm green light on.
Alternators.
Race set on, voltage normal.
Propeller pitch.
Fully prime.
Mixture control.
Auto rich lock on.
Fuel valves.
Check tank to engine.
Booster pump.
On normal.
Generators.
All on.
Ignition switches.
Check down both.
Controls and trim tabs.
Controls are free.
Engines ready for takeoff.
Ready for takeoff.
Ready for takeoff, sir.
Stand by for takeoff.
Home is suddenly a toy town. It may be Miami or Beirut you leave behind. It may be Cairo or Sydney, or the grandeur of Rome or Rio that's dwindling into space beneath you as you climb. None of them now, no place on this earth is more than 2 days' distance from any other. The engines settle to their cruising note. The galley gets down to work. How to keep people occupied through a long, smooth, steady flight across the blue dome of the sky. Books and magazines, of course. Route maps and picture postcards for the aunt you forgot to say goodbye to. How to keep people occupied? This is one way that never fails. And outside, as the hours and distances roll by, what will the clouds reveal? Perhaps it will be this island, dreaming in the Bahamas, San Salvador, where less than 5 centuries ago, the cry of a lookout on the Pinta's forecastle told Columbus he had found a new world. Perhaps it will be these wild shores of Newfoundland, where the long ships of Leif Erikson scudded through the storms on their way to Vinland. Or it may be the Arctic regions, where caribou thunder across the white world of the furthest north. Or you may glimpse these gleaming snakes of water gliding through the eastern jungles, Mekong, Chindwin, Brahmaputra, Irrawaddy. It may be Lake Tana in the heart of Ethiopia, where drifting spume and flashing rainbow guard the birthplace of the Blue Nile. Or you may look down into the tremendous mouth of Popocatépetl, towering 18,000 feet above the sea, crater within crater. it may be some testament to bygone human splendor, like Machu Picchu, city of the Incas, lifting its blind walls from the gorges of the Andes to the mansions of the sun. Or yet again, your path across the sky may lead you through the very summits of the world. Down the painful ages, men have schemed and died to do just this, to lord the hemispheres. What has brought us now this sudden swift success? The genius of the peoples, all of them. But as much as the brilliance of the scientists and the daring of the pioneers, it's been the patience of the organizers. Patience and collaboration. This is a body of which little is heard, IATA, the International Air Transport Association. Its present Director General is Sir William Hildred of Great Britain. IATA's members are the international airlines, about 75 of them all told. They inherited a world of regulations made for caravans and wagon trains and sailing ships. Progressively, they've freed the sky from this archaic outlook, hammered out a common order, common codes and standards. Argument, competition, cut and thrust. But out of it all, the air has emerged as an outstanding instance of international good sense. Look beyond the conference room at how it works in practice. Look, for example, at this aircraft, approaching the shores of the Levant. They've just 3 weeks, remember, to see the Middle East. 3 weeks, and so much to see. Let's not go here, let's go there instead. But what about the tickets? Can we change them? It's tempting to hold on to all the traffic you can get, especially when your airline's a source of national pride. But the logic of a world moving at 300 miles an hour is a system that gives as much freedom of movement as the sky itself. Freedom to change plans in mid-air, shift from one line to another. The result? A universal agreement to make tickets interchangeable. And the interline adjustments, compensations, transfers of currency, passengers shouldn't be bothered with all that. And besides, that's what accountants are for. Or this aircraft, crossing northern Venezuela from Caracas to Maturin. He set out with a lot to do en route. Export-import business, forms to fill in, cargoes to move, and buyers waiting for them. And just as one ticket takes a passenger around the world, so one airway bill will take a piece of freight to anywhere. And what do the freighters haul? The faithful, plodding cargo planes you don't hear much about. Almost anything these days, from isotopes and oysters to machines and magazines. Some lines carry more animals than human beings, and there's always the heavy stuff. There's a brisk movement of nylon stockings over the Atlantic, of sausage skins from Iran to the stockyards of Chicago. They say air cargo's in its infancy, but you can see the scale it's moving into. Or this plane, heading out over the Pacific, eastbound from Japan. His first venture into the big world, and his first visit to a crew in the cockpit. What makes a crew? Training, and above all, training up to standards accepted everywhere. And here another body makes its contribution. The International Civil Aviation Organization, an agency of the United Nations. Concerned with the intergovernmental aspects of flying, one of ICAO's functions is to provide technical assistance to countries becoming air-minded. Where safety is concerned, nationalism has no place. In training for airline work, you've got to make sure that a Mexican pilot can land an American plane under instructions from an Indian controller using Dutch radio equipment. That's right, young man. Have fun while you can. Soon you'll be under the cold eye of a tight-lipped airline captain who doesn't believe in giving passengers ground for complaint. Or this stratocruiser, out in mid-Atlantic, bound for Montreal. In 1927, the Spirit of St. Louis made the crossing in 33 hours. Margaret Fleming now in 14. But Lindbergh didn't have the international support behind him that she does today. There are 21 of these ships maintaining 9 weather stations in the North Atlantic. They fly the flags of different nations, but they're all doing the same job, finding out for the aircraft passing overhead what the weather's going to do. And the ships, in turn, are meshed in with hundreds of weather stations round the world. It never stops. Observations recorded round the clock over land and sea, transmitted halfway across the globe, assessed, interpreted, collated through half a dozen languages, and passed back to where they're needed, in the cockpit.
Athènes, Beyrouth. Ciel nuageux 4 à 6 huitièmes par strato. QEQ, base 2500 pieds, sommet 18 000 pieds. Localement, cumulonimbus, sommet 30 000 pieds avec risque orage.
Or again, this aircraft, heading up country from Accra over the hot hills of Africa. Going to Tamale on urgent business. Half an hour yet. Those engines out there. Keep it up. A few minutes might make all the difference. Standards again. For behind the steady note of all the engines flying in all the aircraft, there's a common code of maintenance. Visual checks, terminal transit checks, rated checks, and after every 1,400 hours or so in the air, complete strip down and overhaul. To the inmost innards of the plane, nothing left unexamined. Or this, halfway out from Bombay, over the Arabian Sea. Time, midnight. Sleep well, mirror, in your cradle in the sky. Up ahead, there are men on the flight deck, listening to the unseen, sounding beacons of the dark, charting your pathway through the stars. Sleep well in your cradle in the sky. Beneath you, a continent astern, an ocean ahead, Men are watching your progress through the arch of night. Up there, 4 miles above the turning earth, you're not alone. This might be almost anywhere. It happens to be a village called Pucallpa, miles from anywhere in the heart of Peru. You wouldn't think Pucallpa and the air had much in common, but you'd be wrong. Three times a week, the plane brings in the mail and papers, humps the groceries and hardware, doesn't forget old Manuel's medicine. On the return trip, it takes the local produce out to market. And these days, Pucallpa's typical. Millions of people who have never flown themselves are looking to the sky for life and livelihood. Move to Brussels, London, or New York and see the same thing, only more so. Over the big cities, just as in the far-off outback, people are taking the air for granted, using it to commute to the office, keep an urgent business date. And this alone poses one of the biggest problems for the future, for the air is filling up, getting crowded, almost like the roads. Here's one way they're tackling the problem: a traffic school of the sky.
Indianapolis, ATC, this is Eastern 747.
The operators are feeding information on the speed and direction of imaginary planes to a central plotting room.
ATC, this is Eastern 747 over Maxwell intersection at 25, 10,000. Estimate Indianapolis at 33. Request change of flight plan to land at Indianapolis. Over.
The plotters sort out the approaching aircraft. One receives instructions to stack and circle. Another is given the green light to come in and land. And the aircraft of tomorrow, their power and performance, speeds and shapes. What does the future hold for them? They say that no man has enough imagination to predict the flying of a generation hence. But ideas are on the wing. Vertical takeoff, one way of freeing aircraft from the weight of landing gear, of abolishing the runway altogether. A model, this, but the real thing's taking off already. Direct lift, then forward, perhaps faster than the spin of the Earth. For real as well are speeds of over 1,000 miles an hour. Are the ideas outstripping what is feasible? Only patient tests can show. Leave France after breakfast? Arrive in America before dawn? Not yet, perhaps. But the aircraft of the next few years will take a long step forward. Some are in production, others in the air right now. From America, the Boeing 707. From Britain, the sleek new Comet 4. Turboprop Britannia. And again from America, the graceful DC-7C. Planes like these are raising commercial speeds to over 500 miles an hour, reducing the Atlantic to a 6-hour jaunt. And down below, the airports extend and multiply their concrete networks. The future in the making, and the present on its doorstep. Its voices from the clouds calling for instructions, approaching journey's end.
United DC-7, you are now cleared number 1. To land runway 28 left. The wind is still west-northwest 17. Hello, San Francisco Tower. This is United DC-7, 3 minutes northwest. Okay, United DC-7, I have you in sight 3 minutes northwest.
Japan Air 002, clear to runway 15.
Prepare foxtrot, you are clear for landing on runway 34. Surface wind 320 at 8 knots. Call downwind, over.
Trans-Canada 230, Montreal Tower. Runway 10, wind 110 degrees, 11 mph, cleared. A direct approach, altimeter 30.1.
Aquí Torre Lima Tango, libre para entrar tráfico en pista 16, viento sur, 8 nudos, altímetro 10.5, clear to enter traffic for runway 16.
A few hours back, they were taking off from all the airports everywhere. They've leveled the mountains, telescoped the oceans, shriveled the prairies and the deserts. Now, one every 5 seconds, they're coming in. We come down the gangways in our thousands every day. And whatever we've come here to do, to buy some cattle maybe, or to pay a family visit, to sign a contract, seal a treaty, leave no avenue unexplored, to make a picture or to win some prizes, or perhaps to see an old man for the first time. The air is ours, to serve our purposes. $70 million of us every year already, for whom the patience and the planning, the exacting standards set in common, have made a third dimension real. To whom, for the first time or the 100th, the clouds have sung their song of wonder. Then we've gone. And there's a moment's pause for the ground crews to refuel, to inspect and check, to see to all the host of things that complete the turnaround. In the air, it's been a day like any other. But what has it meant for just a few among the thousands who have passed it in the sky? It has taken Kilmarnock halfway to the Arctic Ocean. It has brought Caracas to Maturin, made a man's business easier, fulfilled his promise to deliver. It has sent Accra to Tamale, and in the sending, saved just one more life. It has set down Burlington in Baalbek to realize a dream and take it home. It has put Tokyo on the threshold of San Francisco, opened a horizon wider than the oceans. And it has simply brought together. For no two people living now are more than 2 days from each other. And who knows how soon the time may come when it will be 2 hours.
Aircraft designed to approach the speed of sound look different from low-speed aircraft. To find out why, let's first consider how sound itself travels through air. Slowing down the picture shows how the sound is produced. The vibrating prongs give the air a succession of pushes. And like pressure waves along a spring, these sound waves travel on through the air. The air is alternately compressed and rarefied, and as each wave passes, there is a brief disturbance. Sound waves are pressure waves. Like ripples on a pond, they spread out from their source in all directions at the same speed. All small disturbances in the air, whether audible or not, travel outwards at this same speed, the speed of sound. What is this speed? Here is a convenient source of sound at sea level. Let's measure the time it takes for the sound of the explosion to travel 1 mile, the distance between these two forts. The flash is coming now. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sound took just under 5 seconds to travel the mile. That is, at sea level, the speed of sound is about 760 miles per hour. The exact speed depends effectively on only one factor, the temperature of the air. The higher the temperature, the faster the sound travels. On a really hot day, it may reach over 800 miles per hour at sea level. But temperature falls with altitude until the stratosphere is reached at about 36,000 feet. Above this height, the temperature remains constant at approximately 60 degrees centigrade below zero. So the speed of sound is lower, only 660 miles per hour. What has the speed of sound to do with high-speed flying? To find out, let's consider first a single point, sending out small pressure waves continuously. Each wave travels outwards at the speed of sound. Now suppose the point itself is moving. If its speed is less than the speed of sound, the pressure waves still travel out ahead. But if the point is traveling at the speed of sound, the pressure waves cannot travel out ahead of it, for the point is traveling as fast as they are. If the point travels faster than sound, that is, at supersonic speed, this happens. But we're not going to deal with this case here. This is the kind of way in which the speed of sound affects high-speed aircraft, and therefore, at high speeds, the exact relation between the speed of an aircraft and the speed of sound is important. But remember, the speed of sound varies with temperature and therefore with altitude. It's considerably lower in the stratosphere than at sea level. The ratio of an aircraft's true airspeed to the speed of sound where it is flying is called the aircraft's Mach number, after the 19th century Austrian physicist Ernst Mach. It is usually shortened to M. At high speeds, it is essential for the pilot to know the Mach number, and Mach meters are fitted to all high-speed aircraft. This is how an aircraft's Mach number is calculated. The aircraft has flown 6/10ths of a mile in the time that a sound wave has traveled 10/10ths of a mile. It has flown at 6/10ths of the speed of sound in the same atmospheric conditions. So its Mach number is 0.6. This aircraft is flying at Mach 0.9. Aircraft flying at the same true airspeed but at different heights will have different Mach numbers. for the speed of sound is different in the two cases. The Mach numbers at which an aircraft is intended to operate have a great influence on its design. An aircraft is much more complicated than the point source of pressure waves we saw earlier. So the behavior of the air is more complicated too. To find out about it, let us consider the airflow around a wing. This wing section is symmetrical like most modern wings. It is in a typical flying attitude. The air is slowed down at the nose to form what is called the stagnation region. It speeds up as it passes round the curvature of the wing. It slows down again towards the trailing edge. These changes of speed cause changes in the air pressure. The yellow regions showed reduced and the green increased pressure. All these variations in pressure together produce lift and drag. Now each point on the wing acts like a point source. Here we're only showing a few such points. Each sends out pressure waves which travel at the speed of sound and reach the air ahead of the wing. We can use smoke to show how the air flows. The influence of the pressure waves traveling ahead can be seen from the way the streamlines are deflected well ahead of the wing. Lowering a flap changes the entire flow pattern around the wing and affects the airflow ahead. We can see this better with a single streamline. Mark its position well ahead. Even at a distance, the streamline changes direction. The effect of the pressure waves on the air ahead is of great importance. It smooths the flow past an aircraft flying well below the speed of sound. But what happens when approaching the speed of sound? The airflow speeds up as it passes over the wing and reaches its maximum speed at a certain point. The Mach number here will always be greater than that of the aircraft as a whole, called the flight Mach number. As the flight Mach number increases, so does the local Mach number at the maximum speed-up point. Eventually, though the aircraft as a whole is flying at less than the speed of sound, just at this point on the wing, the air is moving at the speed of sound. The flight Mach number when this happens is called the critical Mach number of the aircraft, usually written M crit. For any wing section, M crit will always be less than 1. Aerodynamically, the critical Mach number is very important, for the aircraft has reached a speed at which it meets mixed airflow, part subsonic, that is less than the speed of sound, part supersonic, greater than the speed of sound. It is the beginning of the transonic speed range. From the behavior of the aircraft, the pilot has no way of telling that he has reached the critical Mach number, but soon after it has been exceeded, things begin to happen. The Mach meter on the left has been altered, since the actual critical Mach number of this type of aircraft has not yet been released. In this picture, it is 0.9. And soon after M crit is exceeded, the aircraft starts to buffet violently. Aircraft vary greatly in their behavior above the critical Mach number. Some show violent instability, while others, specially designed for transonic flight, may be little disturbed. To find out why problems arise above the critical Mach number, let's use a high-speed wind tunnel. This one's fitted with special optical equipment to show in colors regions where the density of the air is changing. These effects can be photographed. Solid objects, like this nozzle, appear silhouetted against a colored background. When the compressed air jet is turned on, other colors appear. We have chosen red to show regions where density is increasing, and blue regions where it is decreasing. A symmetrical wing section designed for high speeds is put in the tunnel. At low speeds, the air behaves as if it were incompressible. Whatever pressure changes there are so slight as to cause no color change. But as speed increases, the air does begin to show signs of compressibility. The colors show regions of increasing and decreasing density. The red area at the leading edge is the stagnation region, where the air is being slowed down and becoming denser. Immediately behind are two blue areas where the rate of speeding up is greatest, causing a reduction in density. This diagram will remind us of what's happening. As the flight Mach number increases, the flow at the point of maximum speed up on the wing reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound. The wing has reached its critical Mach number. And when this is exceeded, a sudden sharp region of increasing density forms on the wing just behind the point of maximum speed up. This is a shock wave. It is a sudden jump in the pressure of the air. It grows and moves back as the Mach number increases. Shock waves can even be seen with the naked eye in certain atmospheric conditions. Watch them streaming back from the nose of this missile. There. This time we're going to hold the picture still for a few seconds. Let us see a shock wave form again in the wind tunnel. A diagram shows what happens. At the critical Mach number, there is a point on the wing where m equals 1. At higher speeds, the point grows into an area in which the flow is supersonic, that is, where m is greater than 1. Outside this area, the flow is still subsonic. m is less than 1. The rear boundary of the area is the shock wave itself. As the aircraft accelerates, so the area of supersonic flow increases, and the shock wave moves back, growing larger and stronger. A shock wave at right angles to the airstream is the means by which the airflow suddenly decelerates from supersonic to subsonic speed. How are shock waves formed? On the rear part of the wing, every point, such as this one, sends out innumerable tiny pressure waves at the speed of sound. In the forward direction, these waves meet airflow in the opposite direction and make less and less progress until they reach a stage where they can't travel any further forward because the airflow itself is moving backwards supersonically. It's like trying to step off an escalator going the wrong way. The pressure waves constantly pile up here, and this is the shock wave. A shock wave is a very narrow region, about 1/10,000th of an inch thick. Across this region, the supersonic airflow is violently reduced to subsonic speed. Much of the air's energy of movement, or kinetic energy, is dissipated as heat. The temperature of the air rises suddenly as it passes through the shock wave. There is also a sudden rise in pressure. The energy wasted as heat in the shock wave must be continuously supplied by the engines, otherwise the aircraft would decelerate. So as the aircraft approaches the speed of sound, it meets an additional kind of drag called wave drag. Wave drag is a large proportion of total drag at transonic speeds. As the speed of airflow is increased still further, the region of supersonic flow goes on growing larger, and a second supersonic region starts to form on the lower surface of the wing with another shock wave. At speeds approaching the speed of sound, the most important result of the shock wave is to cause the airflow to separate from the wing's surface. This is called shock-induced separation. It produces a large turbulent wake which alters the pressure distribution, lift is reduced, and the turbulence creates drag. In this aircraft, the turbulence strikes the tailplane, causes violent buffeting, and so limits its speed. Other aircraft experience such serious troubles as sudden loss of stability and reduced effectiveness of the controls. We can't see separation in flight, but this aircraft has wool tufts stuck on the wings. They lie flush when the airflow is smooth and flap when shock-induced separation occurs. But shock waves don't only appear on wings. Speed up of the airflow occurs around the canopy and many other parts of an aircraft. Wherever it's great enough, there shock waves will form. Shock waves cause a vast increase in drag and may cause serious control troubles. One way of avoiding these troubles is to put them off to still higher speeds by raising the aircraft's critical Mach number. There are two chief design methods for doing this. The first is to use relatively thin wings. That is, wing sections with maximum thickness small compared with width or chord. Thin wings in this sense can of course be very deep. The thinner the wing, the less the air is speeded up, and so the critical Mach number is raised. These two wings are of the same general shape and of the same angle of incidence. The tunnel speed is the same for each. As it increases, the shock wave forms on the thicker wing at a Mach number of 0.8, but not a sign yet on the thinner one. Here it comes at last, at a Mach number of 0.9. But wings can't be made too thin, or the landing speed would be too high. The other important way of raising the critical Mach number is by the use of sweep back. To understand this, let's look from above at the flow over a wing. The contour of the wing section determines the amount the air is speeded up. Now sweep the wing back. We can represent the velocity of the airflow ahead of the wing by an arrow of a certain length. We can consider this velocity as made up of two smaller components, a yellow component at right angles to the leading edge, and a red component parallel to the leading edge. The red component can be considered to flow along the span and is not speeded up by the wing section. But the yellow component flows across the section and is speeded up by it. It is therefore only this component which affects the wing's critical Mach number. So the maximum speed reached over the swept wing will be less than it would be over a similar straight wing. In particular, if the flow over the straight wing has reached the speed of sound, at the same flight speed, the flow over the swept wing will still be subsonic. The swept wing has therefore a higher M crit. The greater the sweep back, the more the critical Mach number is raised. For instance, suppose the straight wing has a critical Mach number of 0.8. By sweeping the wing back to 35 degrees, the M crit is raised to 0.98. But this is only the theoretical result for an infinitely long wing. In practice, the critical Mach number would only be raised to about 0.9. Sweepback, like thin wings, brings its own problems at low speeds, such as tip stalling. So designers must compromise between high-speed and low-speed requirements, and aircraft designed to fly near the speed of sound use thin wings together with sweepback to obtain a high critical Mach number. Various arrangements have been adopted, all very different in appearance. If the swept wing is too thin to contain the engines, they can be mounted externally in pods. Alternatively, the engines can be buried in the wing roots, which are more highly swept than the remainder of the wing. A special kind of sweepback is the crescent wing. Here, the sweepback is reduced in stages to avoid tip stalling. The delta wing combines a high degree of sweepback and great strength. The Delta's large wing area makes it very maneuverable and gives it a good performance at high altitudes. The simple Delta shape can have many variations. Some Deltas have a tailplane to improve maneuverability at the expense of slight extra drag. Today, aircraft are being designed to fly at speeds far above their critical Mach numbers. Problems of extra drag and loss of control caused by shock waves are being overcome. But for many years ahead, airliners will cruise below their critical Mach numbers. In this way, they will avoid shock waves altogether and attain long range and economy of operation. At the same time, designers will aim to make critical Mach numbers as high as possible, thus permitting passenger flight at speeds approaching the speed of sound.